Facebook Live. Voting on. Oh. Sorry.
We're live now.
Okay. Welcome and good evening. Welcome, fellow commissioners, to the Mission and Vision Subcommittee and also to our very first subcommittee meeting. We also welcome Julissa and Christian from the city of Brookhaven and Stephen and Kim of Chrysalis Lab. Commissioner Tiffany Russell and I are excited to chair this subcommittee, and we look forward to working with you over the next few months. Co-chair Russell had an all-day work event today that went into the evening, and she's not going to be able to join us this evening. So the Mission and Vision Subcommittee, as you know, is one of 4 subcommittees in the Social Justice, Race and Equity Commission for the city of Brookhaven. The other subcommittees are hiring and retention, procurement and contracting, and police accountability and use of force. Committees are going to look into existing policies, procedures, and protocols through an equity lens, and then make recommendations to the city council by the end of the year. Our Mission and Vision Subcommittee will meet over the next several months on the first Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. We apologize for having to change the date of our first meeting last week due to the fact that it was Good Thursday. Our next meeting is on Thursday, May 6th, and you should have all received invites and Zoom links for the meetings for the rest of the year. So this evening, Commissioner Vina Kane and Commissioner Melissa Owen were not able to attend. They were excused. I heard from Commissioner Ravi Josh Hirsch, and he told me that he was getting his, I think, his second shot of the vaccine today, and he didn't know how he was going to feel, but I don't see him here. So that's probably why he's not here with us this evening. So let's go to the agenda page and see what we have in store here for tonight. We're going to go through this so we can finish by 8 o'clock per the agenda. So here's the agenda for this evening. We're going to do some introductions, the subcommittee charge, and a timetable. We're going to go a little bit briefly over the mission and vision. Stephen is going to talk about exemplar government documents. Christian's going to talk about the charter of the city, and we're going to take some questions and go over to the next steps, and then adjourn by 8 o'clock. And go back. Julissa, oh, yes, go back. Yes, this, yeah, next one. So we're gonna do, so as a way of introduction, before we talk more about the charge and how we're going to execute, the charge of the subcommittee, let's do some quick introductions, and let's do an icebreaker. I'll call someone's name, and then you go ahead and call the, somebody after you, so that you can, we don't go in any specific order. So let me start, and we can include, okay, so Amy, I'm gonna ask, the question is, if we were COVID-free around the globe right now, and you could be anywhere in the world, where would that be?
That is a hard question, because there's so many places I would be, because I haven't been anywhere for a year. And I used to travel quite frequently. So I would either do maybe a tour around Europe and Scandinavia, or the Asia Pacific region, or if I had to just be in one place, maybe in Maui, Hawaii.
Okay.
So all over, anywhere.
Anywhere but you. Okay, please call on somebody else, on another commissioner.
Let me see here. Commissioner Hardy.
Okay, so this week, that is an easy question. I would be at an Augusta National, so very easy question this week, fortunately. But yeah, otherwise I'd be on the beach somewhere very far away and remote. I will pass it on to Commissioner Korn.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, that was me, Commissioner Korn.
Oh, I'm sorry. I will pass it to Commissioner Cosby.
I'm not a commissioner, but happy to share.
Yeah, please share. Please share.
I'm 0 for 2 right now. Geez, all right.
I would personally love to travel to Spain or Morocco. Been there a few times, would love to go back. Commissioner Corello, where would you like to go?
So thank you, and I think we're thinking alike. We had a trip booked to Malta and Sicily last year, and we just made a homemade Sicilian pizza for dinner, which was delicious. And if you've watched any of Stanley Tucci's touring Italy, it just really makes you want to go. So that's kind of where I'd be. And I'll pass it off to Christian.
Good evening, everybody. If there was no COVID, I would probably be 2 weeks ago from starting my walk across the northern part of Spain, which I had scheduled for this year, actually. Oh, I get to choose somebody. Who's left? David, have you gone yet? No, let's have David Alexander. I'm sorry, Alexander.
That's all right. Wonderful. Good evening, everyone. Well, this is a constant conversation in my household. And it is a constant conversation in my household because my wife is from Zambia, and her firstborn son was born there as well. And they moved here to Portland, Oregon, where we met about 12 years ago. And so they haven't been back in a while. And since that time, since us meeting, we had a son together. So my firstborn is 4 years old, and we really want to get him back literally to the motherland, to his mother's land, to touch the soil and be with his extended family and cousins and whatnot. And of course, I've never been. So we're constantly talking about when we can make that happen with our schedules and finances and everything else. And like Commissioner Hardy, similar but different genre. It's a fairly easy question for me on this particular day because the St. Louis Cardinals are having their home opener in St. Louis, and if I could be in the stands and be there, which I've done several times, I would be there today. So there's an exotic answer and a less exotic answer for you.
Thank you, David. What about Julissa or Kim? Would you like to share?
Yes, it's about Kim Anderson.
Yes.
Unmute. So first I was going to say Cape Town. Well, first of all, good evening. First I was going to say Cape Town, South Africa, because it's one of my favorite places, but I realized it's winter there. So then I thought about, I've been dying to go back to Thailand. So that's where I could then get the beach and some really great food and a massage all in one. So that's where I would love to go. How about you, Jalissa? Where would you be?
Good evening, everybody. Before the pandemic, every weekend I try to go to like a small band concert or something like that. Tomorrow's Friday, so I know if there was no pandemic, I'd find some a local band to like go to see. But actually, I'm gonna have my second dose of the vaccine pretty soon, so I'm gonna take the risk and go to Baltimore to visit my best friend who recently moved there. So I'm kind of looking forward to that trip in the next few months.
Okay, great, thank you. So, I haven't traveled in over a year. I haven't been on an airplane. So I'm not going to be very picky at this point. Anywhere, the Mediterranean, South America, Africa, anywhere would sound really, really appealing. But anyway, well, thank you for sharing those. So now we're going to go on to the next slide. We have here the dates of our next meetings for the rest of the year. And now I'm going to pass this on to Christian and Kim. They're going to talk a little bit about what is the charge of our committee and how we're going to execute it over the next few months.
in many cases, it's up to you all to decide what you all want, what you want to do per se. We envisioned this particular subcommittee looking at, for lack of a better term, the governance documents that created the city, the legal organ that creates the city, which is the charter. And then the macro level political document would, or statements would be the vision and mission statements of the city, which every organization has those, or at least should have those. And are those three documents or sets of words, and we're going to get into what the charter is here in a little bit. Is there anything about them since, and we'll talk about how they were created. None of the city staff who were on this call were here when they were created, and I'll describe how they were created and how they are created. Is there anything in there that we're blind to? Is there unconscious bias? Is it missing things that should be in there from a terminology standpoint based on where we're at in society? And when I recommended this to Chairman Funny, I thought in terms of what textbooks were and other types of documents over the generations have made shifts in pronouns and words and things like that. So has something changed, or did the city miss something when they did their vision and mission statement? And possibly, and this is something that came out of the chair and co-chair, the co-chairs talking about what's the charge of this is, if the city doesn't have a values statement or culture statement, and many organizations have those types of statements, and they're more behavior-based, or these are the truths we find self-evident. We don't have anything like that. And I thought, well, this is my sixth city or county, and just about everywhere I've worked, it's had that set of core values that they manage to. And Brookhaven doesn't have any. And is this an opportunity to establish core values for this organization called the City of Brookhaven that reinforce social justice, race, equity, inclusion, and that type of thing? So that was a framework. And I thought if you only did that, that would be a lot of work. But if you all want to take it another direction, yeah, I'm fine with that too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So Kim, would you like to add something to that?
The only thing I would like to add is that in addition to what Christian shared is, you are in a unique place and space. You are a diverse group of Brookhaven residents who are thinking and dreaming about diversity, equity, inclusion, and anti-racism in a way that no one else, very unlikely others in your community are doing. And definitely, I am sure that there aren't people who are putting the time, effort in Brookhaven that you are. And so here's an opportunity to bring over the course of the next several weeks or months, your both from a research perspective, which we're going to begin a little bit with some conversation and landing by Stephen, and then work you'll do over the next several weeks, an opportunity to reframe all that's possible in terms of grounding principles that are near and dear to you into the fabric, or at least suggest how it can be embedded in the fabric of the city of Brookhaven. So just as you will and have begun looking at the mission and vision that was established, several years ago, and I know the subcommittee chairs are going to talk about that, you have an opportunity to reimagine the next 10 or 20 years, given your knowledge, your experience, and this unique perspective that you're creating together. And so that's how I see the governing documents as an opportunity, not just to say what is, but to say what's possible and to create a new North Star for Brookhaven that wasn't imagined before. And so that is, and you'll have an opportunity, particularly over the summer, as we look through the framework we've set out, to test drive with your friends and neighbors and members of the community your thoughts, and then to gather back with their ideas, and then to land on a new North Star. So that's just how I see and why I am particularly interested in the work of this committee, because it's not bound, it's boundless. And I think that's exciting.
Well, thank you, Christian and Kim. That sounded very beautiful. Kim, thank you so much. The North Star, I like that concept of the grounding, the North Star, boundless. I love all those words. So I want to go now to the next. So here's the next meetings. As you see, we're going to be meeting until November 4th, monthly, the first Thursday of the month, 7 to 8 p.m. The framework that was given to us by Chrysalis includes, the grounding and the data, the initial, setting everything up for March and April. In May, we're going to do the assessment with the 4 Ps: people, place, power, and process. Then we're going to do in the summer some kind of research and stakeholder engagement. We don't know what that's going to look like now, but I think this is an important part of the process. And then as we come into September and October in the fall, we're going to be issuing recommendations to the City Council regarding the mission and vision. So let's go now to the next slide. So I just wanted to, talk a little bit about the mission and vision of Brookhaven. I don't know if you've had a chance to look at the mission and vision. I just want to make sure that, we're familiar with it, and then we're going to ask a lot of questions about this mission and vision. Would anybody be interested in reading the vision of Brookhaven?
It's Amy. I'll do that. Vision. Brookhaven will be nationally recognized as a beautiful community where multiple generations can live in safety, flourish in business, and succeed in a historic, sustainable environment with exceptional education and transportation options.
Okay, great. And who would like to read the mission? Amy?
Sure. Mission. In support of the Brookhaven vision, the city government shall encourage and maintain a beautiful community, meet public safety needs, develop an environment for business success, promote sustainable projects and activities, identify and preserve historic and neighborhood resources, facilitate educational opportunities, and improve transportation conditions, connectivity, and options while listening to and communicating with the public.
Thank you. So, I'm sure that over the next few months, we're going to be memorizing this vision and mission from seeing it. And I want us to, to reflect really deeply on these. And I wanted to go, there's some questions that, I want us to use as a guide when we look at the charge of our committee, of the mission and vision. Basically, we're going to look at the mission and vision of the city of Brookhaven through the lens of equity. Go to the next slide, Julissa, please. So here are some of the questions that we're going to answer. I divided the first category into Brookhaven itself. Brookhaven is only 9 years old. It was founded in 2012, so it's a relatively new city. And one of the advantages of that is that we have the people who founded the city are still around us. So we have been, Tiffany, Commissioner Russell, and I have had a series of conversations this past few weeks with some of these founders that Christian has put us in touch with. We talked to these 3 founders last week, and it's just become, it's the history and what brought the city to its creation, what has shaped the city, it's been very interesting to us. So we're going to look at the founding of the city of Brookhaven. What was the movement that led to the founding of Brookhaven? Who were the people who were part of this movement and who created the city, and why? There was some opposition to the city being created within DeKalb County. Why was the case? What values, created this city? Talking to some of these founding members of the city, the big concern seemed to be that they believed that the county wasn't giving them enough attention in terms of resources for parks, for the police, etc. So they wanted to have more of their own autonomy and determine how to determine the use of the resources on their own. We're going to talk about, I think it's Pothole Pete, which one of the founders talked about. It's a video that we're going to be showing to you. Apparently that was the iconic image of why Brookhaven needed to become an independent municipality. I was one of the residents of the city who couldn't get a pothole fix in his street. So I think he just, took it upon himself to do it. So that sort of became a symbol for the, for pushing for the creation of the city. So we want to know more about, how are the 4 districts carved out? How was that determined? We're going to look at the city charter. We're going to talk briefly about the charter today and other governing documents, and as Christian mentioned, are there any implicit or explicit biases in these documents? Is there a bias in, who gets to run for office, for instance, or, how do you participate in a meeting? Is there a bias, that impacts, people from participating, that creates a barrier for participation? How did the city's mission and vision come about? We understand that it happened in 2014. It was part of a city council retreat, and the city hired a firm that led this process, and it was approved by the city council in 2014 in a year retreat. So we're going to learn more about that. Christian has forwarded me a document about that. But we want to ask who was at the table. Who was included in this process. Who was shaping this, the mission and vision, and was it approved? Is it a city resolution? Did it get buy-in from everybody, or, what was the process like? Many organizations that have values, that have vision and mission, they also have a list of values. Brookhaven does not. So we're going to look into that. Christian alluded to that. We're going to look at, should the city of Brookhaven have these, guiding principles and values, supplementing the mission and vision. We're going to look at, does the city mission and vision embrace these values of social justice and equity? And, should these values be embraced in the mission and vision, or are they so obvious that they don't really need to be mentioned? So, we're going to look into that. We recently saw the designation by the City Council of Linwood Park has as a historic designation. It was actually the city's first historic designation. How does this designation reflect the values of the cities and what they choose to preserve as history or not? We know that the city for the past few years has been hosting a dinner to celebrate MLK Day. And Lindley Jones, who I talked to last week, she talked to me a little bit about that. So, why are we choosing, to celebrate MLK Day? Why is it such a big day for the city? So these are some of the questions about Brookhaven that we're going to dig in deeper. Can you go on to the next slide, Julissa, please? And then we're going to talk more specifically about mission and vision. What is a mission? What is a vision and how are they different? Mission and vision, they usually go together, but they're very different. When we're talking about a mission, we're usually talking about, the purpose of the organization and what they do pretty much on their day-to-day basis. It talks about the what, the who, and the why pretty much. But when we're talking about vision, it's very aspirational. It's like, if the world were perfect, what would, the vision for this organization or for the world be around this? So they're very different. So we're going to talk about them. We're going to look at some exemplary missions and visions that have social justice and racial equity embedded into them or don't. Do we see some of those? We've reviewed some from municipalities in Georgia and others, and we haven't found that, those values embedded so much. So, are there some out there that embrace these values and who they are? We're going to look at some of the missions and visions of some neighboring cities like Kennesaw, College Park, Alpharetta, and Milton. They have missions and visions. And again, to Christian's question, should we have a list of values along with the vision and mission? And why is having a mission and vision important anyway? Do we really need that to be a functional, city, or are the charter and comprehensive plan and all the other governing documents enough? So another point, we've talked a lot about during our conversations about community engagement, and we want to, this is something that will happen over the summer. We need to figure out how should the community at large, how the residents, should be involved in this process. So, should we be doing a survey, of whether people approve of the mission and vision or not? Should we be doing a town hall? What should we be doing to engage the community in this process? Then at the end of the day, we're going to be making recommendations to the city council by the fall. I'm sorry. Bella, sácala fuera, por favor, sácala, por favor. We're going to be making some recommendations to the city council. So, nothing is really off the table. We're going to be, looking, does Brookhaven need a new vision and mission? Or do the current ones, are they okay and they just need to be tweaked? So, and if, what would a process of re-envisioning the mission and mission look like, which wouldn't be our mandate, but, is that something that we would recommend? So those are some of the guiding questions that we're going to use as we go through this process over the next few months. And now I'd like for Stephen to talk a little bit about some of these exemplar documents of governance. Stephen used to work for the ARC, so he's gonna share some insights into this.
Sure.
So please go ahead, and he has his own PowerPoint.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for that. And I appreciate the chance to speak with you all tonight. And I'm going to share just briefly tonight a few examples from a few different cities from across the country. And there are a few different contexts in which they have created mission and vision statements. But first, I'm going to set a little bit of context before we dig in. So cities create, vision and mission statements really to provide clear direction to residents, business owners, city staff, and other stakeholders to provide some information as to the future direction of the community, right? That can be at the outset of the creation of a city, like in the case of Brookhaven. It can be at the update of a comprehensive plan. It can be at the turning point of a community, such as an annexation, or at the pivotal point, say a huge development comes to town and say a big baseball team comes to town, or there's a, pivotal development that really changes the face of the community. And you say, wow, we really need to update our mission and vision statement. Who we are is changing, and we need to reflect that in our governing documents. These statements are really about providing a sense of buy-in, of shared values and a sense of belonging. And they really help communicate something about the DNA, the identity of a community. What does the city care about? And they also provide a mechanism for transparency and accountability. So really quickly, I know that, excuse me, that you guys are going to go over this in the future as you really dig into the work of the subcommittee. But I wanted to just provide a quick overview, excuse me, as to the difference between a vision statement, a mission statement, and a value statement. So a vision statement is really a statement about an organization's overarching aspirations of what it hopes to achieve or to become in the future. A mission statement describes what the organization needs to do now to achieve that vision. A value statement defines what the organization believes in and how people in the organization are expected to behave. It provides a moral direction for the organization that guides decision-making. So as you can see with your subcommittee, this work can be fairly complex when dealing with the city. I'm sure that you all are a part of other organizations, whether it's your workplace or a nonprofit that you might sit on the board of, or another community organization that has a mission statement or a vision statement. And if you are about, a business that's, making widgets or something, it's about providing the best customer service or the best product that you can that you can provide for the customer. For a community, it's very different, right? Because you are touching every aspect of life for that person, for that individual, for that family. You are dealing with health, home, schooling, access to goods and services, public safety, and so on. And so the missions and visions for those entities, for those cities, for those communities can be fairly complicated, but they don't have to be. And I hope that through this presentation tonight and looking at some of the missions and visions that I'm about to show you, that they can be fairly succinct and very complex, but fairly complete and fairly concise as well. So in bringing equity and centering equity in this conversation, I like to think of a fairly commonly used definition of equity that someone once told me, is giving to each person what they need to thrive. I'm going to say that again. A definition of equity can be giving to each person what they need to thrive. It's going to be different for each person, right? So it's important as we look at these statements to think about what is needed to create communities that create conditions for all residents to thrive, right? So in these examples that I'm going to show you tonight, it's important for us to think about, as we center equity in these conversations, how these communities have thought about how do we communicate to others internal to our city and those who are maybe visiting or coming to our city for the first time or just looking at it online for the first time. How are they looking at our city and approaching it and saying, oh, wow, these folks really value equity. They're thinking about everybody in the city as they are thinking about the future. So I'm going to share my screen now. So our first example is from Madison, Wisconsin. Can you see my screen all right? The city of Madison, Wisconsin there? All right. So a little bit of background here. This, in fairness, is not the city's actual mission and vision statement. So I cheated a little bit up front. I'm going to tell you that. This is actually their racial equity and social justice initiative. This is a big part of their city government. This was actually started in 2014. So this work was underway several years ago. They have a representative from each city department within the city government of Madison that sits on this racial equity and social justice initiative. By the way, you don't need to write down this terribly long URL at the bottom of the page. I'm going to drop each one of these examples into the chat at the end of my presentation, so you can just click on them and go directly to the page. But they have members of the public as well as representatives from each one of these departments that sit on this initiative panel. And they have created this vision and this mission. And I will tell you, there is a toolkit on this page that really walks you through what they have done in the intervening 7 years after they've created this initiative. And it really is a tremendous amount of work that they have done to go through every part of city government to ensure that they are really taking a very critical eye to removing barriers and obstacles to equity within city government. So taking a very open approach to and thinking about, are we creating communities for everyone, and not trying to find fault, but really taking an approach to, are we creating communities for everyone? Are we really looking at this through an equity lens, as was stated earlier? So do I have someone that would like to read the vision, these 4 vision points for us?
This is Commissioner Corello. I'll be happy to read them.
Okay, thanks.
So under vision, living wage jobs, safe neighborhoods, high quality education, a healthy, sustainable, natural environment, efficient public transit, parks and green spaces, affordable and safe housing, and healthy food are afforded to all. The benefits of growth and change are equitably shared across our communities. Third point is all people have opportunities for fair and just inclusion in public processes and decisions. And the fourth point, one's future is not limited by race, ethnicity, gender, sexual orientation, disability, age, income, place of birth, place of residence, or other group status.
Great, thank you, thank you. Does anything stick out to anybody about this vision statement here, these 4 points? Any first impressions?
I would say that they're they're aspirational, but they're also tangible enough that you can not measure them. It's not like you can't check off, because I think the goalpost is always moving. And what is living wage? What is a safe neighborhood? What is high? So those things are, it's what they are today, but what they are tomorrow and 10 years from now, and so on and so forth. So the goal is always moving, but it's an aspiration that's always driving you forward. So they're tangible enough and visionary enough to really pull a community forward.
Great, great. Right. And I think that's a great way of describing it. You want them to be visionary enough, but relatable, and something that pretty much everybody wants, right? You should have fairly broad consensus to say, yeah, I want that in my community, not just a narrow slice of, I want this type of neighborhood with these type of amenities, you want something that, that really appeals to really the broad swath of your community, and that they really craft something that that really appeals to clearly, the broad swath here. And then their mission statement. Who would like to read that for us? Oops. I'll go ahead and read it for us.
Oh, I can read. Oh, somebody.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
The mission is to establish racial equity and social justice as core principles in all decisions, policies, and functions of the city of Madison.
All right. Now, if this were the city's mission statement, that would be something, to establish racial equity and social justice as core principles in all decisions. This is their racial equity and social justice initiative, so they're really putting forward this racial equity and social justice lens, as really kind of a guiding light, really, as for all decision making in the city of Madison. So they're going to advocate for that lens in all decision making.
So Steve, if I could just jump in here real quick, it is not uncommon, in fact, it's very common for organizations in local government to have department-specific mission statements.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we actually have any in Brookhaven, but if you look at our budget document, we'll have more purpose statements for each department.
Right.
But some of the larger organizations I've worked in, they've had formal mission statements. And then it really comes down to the city manager or senior leadership to make sure anything a department does is not contradictory to the corporate level mission or mission statement. So you all read or saw earlier Brookhaven's vision and mission. None of our departments have formal vision and mission statements. The police department does have core principles, though. They have courage, honor, and integrity. It's on their badge. It's on their department seal, if you will. And when I go to the police department every now and then, I'll stop somebody and say, hey, what are the 3 words on your seal? And I'm surprised how many of them actually know it, because many organizations, public and private, couldn't tell you their vision or mission statement if you stopped even a C-suite person.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm sorry, Steve. I hope I didn't disrupt your flow.
No, not at all. That's important to know that within specific departments or different initiatives, that those mission statements may be different, but at the end of the day, you want to make sure that everything does kind of roll up into, that city level kind of vision and mission statement, that there is alignment, so to speak, kind of underneath that citywide umbrella. That is important to know. Thank you for that. I think we had a question from Commissioner Korn. Did you have something?
Actually, your last statement just addressed it. I was going to ask Christian if for the departments that have a specific mission statement, again, what are they laddering up to, which is exactly what you said, which is, if they have a specific strategic plan around arts, for example, or transportation, which I know the city of Brookhaven does, is the document, I guess, the governing document that they're laddering up to, or the hierarchy back to the charter? Is that what it's supposed to point to?
No, the vision and mission, and then planning documents. So if you were to look at our comprehensive plan for the city, which everybody has, that's our big planning document, but we have 10 other ones. It will start in the front with the vision and mission, and that will drive some of the land use recommendations, or at least provide a framework for talking about land use. So if you look back at our vision and mission statement, there's words like connectivity in neighborhoods and transportation. That actually drives some zoning in the comp plan, if you will. It's more aligned than I've seen in other places that I've worked, but the fact that it's in there, but I would expect any city that has a vision or mission statement that it would also be incorporated in their planning documents.
Thank you.
Okay. So our next example is Minneapolis, Minnesota. And before I go to that, I just want to speak to, of course, we're all very aware that Minneapolis is in the news this week with the trial of Derek Chauvin. And clearly they have not arrived by any means in doing the work of racial equity successfully in their various departments. They have a very long way to go. We can all see that. And I'm not by any means trying to pass off their words on the printed page or on the internet as genuine action on all fronts. But I would not be.
Steve, I would be careful there. Knowing, folks in Minneapolis and Hennepin County, there are 40, 50 departments in the government called the city of Minneapolis. And, 1, 2, 4, or the entire police department acting like knuckleheads doesn't mean that the city itself should be branded something, if you will.
Sure.
Unfortunately, that happens. Ferguson, Missouri is going to have a taint for a long time. And other communities that have got, or Sanford, Florida, they're going to have those taints, but unfortunately, in some people's minds, it'll taint the whole government because of the actions of one person or a group of persons, regardless of what they have on paper for a vision and mission statement.
Right. But they've done some great work in terms of really just reflecting their core values through their mission and vision statements as a city government. And I think it bears, highlighting here. And I think that we can hold both things at the same time, their great work in this area, but also, that, like what you said, Christian, that there are going to be failings on behalf of individuals and on behalf of systems. And that's our work here, is to probe and to explore and to think about systems and to think about justice. And to really strive to build better systems and to work within our communities to do that tough work together, right? And so I want to highlight some of that work here because it does bear looking at, and I'm going to show a little bit of their website here too here in a second. But they have done some really intentional work here, and Their vision and mission statements, I think, are some of the best in the country in terms of really reflecting, and this is the citywide vision and mission statement. So if you do go and Google just, City of Minneapolis vision and mission statement, this is what it will bring you to. And they update their racial equity action plan, which if you're not familiar with kind of the process of a racial equity action plan, I encourage you to look that up, to research that. It is a citywide process that many cities go through, and it is a comprehensive look at every aspect of city government and how those different departments take a racial equity lens to their work. Unconscious bias, you mentioned that concept earlier, Christian, is a very significant part of that. How does the work of that department maybe unintentionally, kind of go about its everyday business and unintentionally, do things that leave people out of the mix, or unintentionally make decisions and, not think about things, but leave people without the resources that they need. And so Minneapolis here has done some great work. I wonder if we have maybe one person who will read the vision statement for us. Do we have somebody? Who are my readers?
Sure, I'll do it.
Okay.
Vision. Minneapolis is an intentionally compassionate city where each of us can reach our full potential while caring for one another, eliminating racial disparities, improving our environment, and promoting social well-being. We lead in innovative and creative ways, focused not only on our present needs, but also the success of future generations.
All right. And then our mission statement. Who would like to read that for us?
I'll read it.
Okay.
Mission. Our city government takes strategic action to address climate change, dismantle institutional injustice, and close disparities in health, housing, public safety, and economic opportunities. In partnership with residents, city leaders help to ensure all communities thrive in a safe and healthy city.
Okay. All right. Since we are a little pinched for time, I'm not going to go to the website. I want to respect everybody's time tonight. I do encourage you, as I mentioned, I'm going to drop these links in the chat after I finish. Encourage you to go to the website because they do have values on their website as well that are striking, and just their plain spoken terminology and their relatability. But one thing that did stick out to me about this vision and mission statement is they're short, they're concise, and they're relatable. They're not in language that's hard to understand, and they just speak in plain terminology. I think it's very interesting the way that they crafted these statements, and they're very upfront. You don't have to guess about what they're trying to say. They use very plain English. All right. And then our last example here is the city of Asheville, North Carolina. I don't know about y'all, but I love Asheville. I'm from North Carolina and I can't get enough of this town. Their Vision 2036 document is a great vision for the future. And they completed this several years ago as adopted by City Council. And one of the sections, I'm going to read through this myself just to kind of get us through this real quickly so that we can get on to the next portion. But one of the portions of this Vision 2036 document focuses in on an equitable and diverse community. It says Asheville is an inclusive, diverse community. We define diversity broadly, including but not limited to all races, ages, sexual orientations, gender identifications, socioeconomic backgrounds, and cultural beliefs. We have created an equitable community where everyone can participate and has the opportunity to fulfill their potential because they have access to healthy, affordable food, transportation, quality education, and living wage jobs. Asheville promotes and supports minority businesses as a means of strengthening our local economy. We use a racial equity lens to review and achieve our city's strategic goals in health, education, housing, and economic mobility. And so with those examples, it's very clear to see that that these cities are very intentional about the ways that they have crafted their mission and vision statements, and are very upfront about what they believe, how they're communicating it, and how they're crafting a vision that is broad, that is inclusive, that is intentional about centering equity for the future. And so I'm happy to take any questions now or in the chat. And like I said, I'll drop these questions, or rather these links in the chat so that you can access them right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you so much for that great presentation. Inspiration there as we look at Brookhaven's mission and vision. And you can send us a PowerPoint that you have more examples in that PowerPoint. That we can share the PowerPoint with us. That would be great.
I will.
Thank you so much for sharing that. We're 6 minutes till 8 o'clock, and I want to make sure we finish by 8 o'clock. So I want to see if Christian can give us the briefest introduction to the charter, like a 2-minute introduction, so that we have a few more minutes to wrap up the meeting, and then we can focus more on the charter at our next meeting. Christian, can you give us a 2-minute, maybe elaborate more next time?
Yes, it's very, very easy. A charter is just a legal document. Corporations have them, nonprofits have them, governments have them. So we have a charter that says what you can do and what you can't do. And I'm sharing my screen right now. It's set up just like a law book would be set up, because it's written by lawyers. Every charter in state, federal, local government's written by lawyers. So you have chapters and parts and articles, and all charter is the very first part of your document. It tells you what your city can do and can't do. Not necessarily how you're going to do it, but what you can and can't do. Can you tax this? Can you tax that? What are your limits? And the charter is the items, the basic governance. How many members of your city council will be? How long will their terms be? How big and what are the boundaries of the city and the individual districts? What it takes to be a council member, what limitations, things like that. Dates to get put on the ballot, when elections will be, how elections will be held. All of that's laid out in the charter. In Georgia, the charters all kind of look the same, and really, quite frankly, they look the same everywhere in the country I've been. They're laid out in this manner, and at the top you see it says MC next to Brookhaven, Georgia. That's Muni Code. That's the company that houses our charter. Anytime we make a change, we send it to them. But Muni Code is also the organization that does Dunwoody, Sandy Springs, in most cities in the United States. It's just a kind of a catalog of way to do it. So if you were to go out on the Sandy Springs website, probably under the mayor's office, there'll be a link to the charter, and it'll look just like this. And it'll say Sandy Springs, Georgia at the top. But the content will be different. It'll just be specific to Sandy Springs. When you become a city in Georgia, you're voting on your charter. You literally vote on it. You'll say, I'm adopting this charter. And then once you get elected officials, you can change the charter. And there's a method for changing it defined in the charter. But this is just a vehicle of how we govern, I don't want to say how, the limits that we have. Like Brookhaven can't have an income tax. Brookhaven can't have a sales tax because it's not in our charter. But we can have ordinance saying we can fine you $100 for not having a dog on a leash. That's actually in the charter. So that's all the charter is. I thought in reviewing the charter for your all's work, you'd focus on part 1, which are, and even Article 1, Article 2, and Article 3. Those are the things that I think drive access to participate actively in local government as a local official. What it takes to be on city council, how much does it cost, to apply, to get put on the ballot, when to be put on the ballot, ethics, background, how long do you have to live in the city, all that kind of stuff is in the early part of any charter. Are there things in our charter that preclude people from, or dissuade people from running for office? It's a worthwhile look in the document. The rest of the charter is pretty straightforward. And the charter is typically bounded by state and federal law, and that includes the US Constitution. The charter can't trump the US Constitution. It cannot trump the state constitution. So we can't have anything in here that says, you know, I can enter your house without a warrant. So that's, I hope it's more than 2 minutes, but this is the charter for Brookhaven.
This is great. Thank you so much, Christian, for that introduction. We'll become more familiar with this document over the next few weeks. So I just wanted to close up. Julissa, if you can get to the last PowerPoint slide that has, you know, our next meeting for the full committee, the Social Justice, Race, and Equity Commission is meeting next Thursday, the 15th at 7 o'clock. But our next subcommittee meeting is the first Thursday of May 6th. You know, we'll send you with some assignments. We're gonna have you review and reflect on the vision and mission, and you know whether it reflects the values of equity, social justice, racial equity, and inclusion. So you will get to reflect on that. I will discuss this more at our next meeting. We're gonna maybe review the city charter, you know, in more detail for what Christian said was implicit bias. So we're going to look into that. What are the barriers to participation? And also the Chrysalis Lab people gave us this document of shared definitions about racial equity, about social justice, and about race. And I'm going to share that document too, so that we all, you know, we're all working around the same definitions of the same concept. So I want to wish you a good evening. Thank you. If anybody has any questions before we part, please bring them on. If you want to contact me or Commissioner Russell between now and next week, or now at our next meeting for the subcommittee, that would be great. I'm excited that Commissioner Russell, she works at St. Martin's Episcopal Church in Brookhaven, and over the past few years, the school has led a process to go over the mission and vision of the school. So she is well heeled in this field, and she has a lot of insight that she's going to be able to share as we go through this process. So I would like to see if there's any final comments or questions that you have. Again, feel free to reach me by email.
I'd say if I could just jump in as far as kind of the charge of the committee, if it's not already apparent. If work needs to be done to the charter, if it's, you know, just a tweak of a few words, and so if it's been thought through, see those as recommendations that if they get through the entire commission, go to city council, they might just say, great. If it needs a complete rewrite, substantial, that would need to be a citywide process with all the appropriate engagement and all that kind of thing. And that's something probably outside of the purview of the entire Social, Race, and Justice and Equity Commission. But it's still, if you all come to the conclusion and the entire committee agrees that this thing needs a complete rewrite because it doesn't say anything about inclusion or social justice or equity, that's still a very valid recommendation. We just won't be able to actually do that work within the confines of the commission, if that makes sense.
Yes. Thank you for clarifying that. Yes, we're making recommendations. We're not doing anything. We're making recommendations to the city council. So we can talk more next week, but in the meantime, have a good evening, and thank you so much for joining us today.
And if anybody wants to contact me directly to kind of talk about how this is all tied together and how we manage city departments, how we make priorities on spending decisions, because everything should go back to the vision, the mission, and our planning documents. Feel free to give me a call.
Thank you so much, Christian. Good evening. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much. Good evening.
This concludes our meeting. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.